up 7 times. So that's done with. Some more. And yeah, I don't know. I'm very moved when people come. It's great. He was an amazing man, man. He was spectacular. Yeah, they were they had the eulogy in front of them. Let's put it that way. And they wanted to finish it. I hope you're going to hear what you just said on Sunday, because what they said was amazing. He's every word of what they said and more and more. But the way they said it was so eloquent. And then they look at each other and say, well, we don't have the notes yet. It's just not exactly what you need to say. It is spectacular. All the nephews and the nieces loved him. The uncle. The uncle. We have to go this way. Yeah. Good. Okay. This way, right? Yep. And we turn left. Okay. I would like to invite the pallbearers to come closer. We are going to begin with a service. מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אכסר, בנאות שירביצני על מי מנוחות ינעלני, נפשי ישובב, ינחני במקלי צדק למען שמו, גם כי אלק וגלצל מוות לא ירא כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי. תשענת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. The words of the 23rd Psalm, a Psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want, giving me repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters to revive my spirit, guiding me on the right path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through a valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out. It's great to see so many of you. I guess the family wasn't exaggerating when they said to me how much people loved Monte. So it's great to see all of you, really. And also thank you everyone at home for tuning in. Thank you. It's great for all of you to find a way also to be present this afternoon. My name is Rabah Mas from Congregation Shaarey Zedek, and it's my great honor to be here officiating the funeral services for Monte Kowall of blessed memory. He was known to the Jewish people by his Hebrew name, Moshe ben Shimon Mubluma, Zichrono Livracha, of blessed memory. He was the son of Samuel and Bertha of blessed memory, the husband of Cecil, the brother of Bernard of blessed memory, the father of Pamela and Gary Brooker, Paul and Didi Kowall, Ferin Lisa Kowall, and Shaarey Kowall Robbie Weiss. The grandfather of Alana and Matt, Ivy, Rachel, Sarah, Lainey, Nace, Sienna, Tamara, Jenny, and Peter. Monte passed away Wednesday, April 17th, peacefully at home at the age of 95. In a few minutes, we will hear some eulogies to honor Monte's memory. But before we go into that, I would like to share my words to honor his memory. And I would like to start by saying that names, especially Hebrew names, represent our identity. Not simply because they are a convenient way to allow us to be distinguished one from another. It is because they define us. The Hebrew names we are giving at birth aren't accidental. They are to some extent prophetic, if you wish. They capture our essence. They are the keys to our soul. The Hebrew word for soul is neshama. Central to that word, the middle two letters, shin and mem, make the word Shem, Hebrew for name. So our name is the key to our soul and to our divine mission, because every soul comes to this world with a mission. And I've noticed that Monte's Hebrew name was Moshe, Moses. Even without being aware of Monte's Hebrew name, the historical figure of Moses came to my mind when I heard how the family summarized Monte's trait of character. And I quote them. I would like to quote them. They said to me, humility, almost to a fault. A man who didn't want to talk about his accomplishments or to draw too much attention to himself. Integrity, with an incredible moral compass. Excellence, always giving the best, but also expecting the best. Larger than life personality, a legend. Of all the Jewish virtues, humility is a foundation stone. For most other virtues grow from it, including appreciation, gratitude, patience, respect, dignity, generosity, compassion, empathy, loving kindness, doing justice, and pursuing peace. The importance of humility is evoked in a Talmudic passage that is inscribed over many synagogue sanctuary arcs all around the world, where you can see Dalif Neimia Taomed, know before whom you stand. And the Bible describes Moses as a very humble man, humbler than anyone else on the face of the earth. Moses' humility was a key virtue that led to his becoming the most important and intimate prophet of God. I would like to share with you a rabbinic legend, a midrash, talking about Moses. And hopefully it will be the key to better appreciate Monte's life. Listen to this. One day, God observed the shepherd Moses retrieving a lamb that strayed from his flock. Taking the tiny creature lovingly into his arms, Moses embraced it tenderly and returned it to its mother. God said, "Since you tend the sheep of human beings with such compassion, you shall be the shepherd for my sheep, Israel." Moses' assumption of responsibility for his flock's welfare and his compassion for even the most vulnerable creature are the character traits that caught God's attention. Monte Kowall shared that love for everyone, just like the biblical Moses. In a time where doctors stopped making house calls, Monte refused to discontinue that practice, visiting the sick people for long hours, getting to know them and supporting them in anything they may need. And I can assert that such tremendous act of kindness also caught God's attention, reserving a place in the Olam Haba, in the world to come for him. Such devotion to heal people unfortunately meant long hours away from home. But Monte was also devoted to his family, finding time to connect with them. And just like the biblical Moses, Monte's connection to Judaism was strong. He was one of the founding members of the Herzliya synagogue, and tradition was very important to him. It's unfortunate that Monte left this world just before Passover, a festival that evolves all around Moses, and that was very dear to him. But, as the family already told me, this love for Pesach and this passion for leading the Seder will always be present as they continue now with this tradition, and by doing so, they will be honoring Monte's memory. Fundamental to the Jewish worldview is the understanding that a spiritual reality exists beyond what we experience in the physical world. When a person dies, only his body is buried, while his soul enters a spiritual realm where it continues to live and have self-awareness. But while there is so much going on in the Olam Haba, it is also a duty to acknowledge and celebrate everything that stays right here with us. That's why I would like to invite Ferin and Paul to come to the microphone to eulogize their father.
Thank you. Okay, get my key. Just in case. Oh, I got to it. No, I'm good. I'm good. Okay. This way. Okay. Living away really made me see how much I had missed out on with my father. Despite his 95 years, he never seemed old to me. It's like he was preserved in time, and each time I would come into town, things would just continue from where they left off. He seemed invincible to me. I would never believe that he would die. He just kept plugging away, right? This wasn't going to happen to my dad. It has been a hard reality to accept. Okay. I was told to make this fairly short, but how can you talk about 95 years in a few minutes? It's impossible. I would like to share some highlights and memories of my dad, similar to what the rabbi already said, however long it takes, and he's so worthy of this. Thank you. Leave it alone. Dad was quite the character, and he wore many hats. From his unusual sense of humor to his serious professional side, he made an impression on everyone. He was a man of extreme generosity, integrity, compassion, knowledge, and focus that he instilled in all of his children and grandchildren. He had high standards and wanted us to be the best we could be. He was a kid at heart and always knew how to have fun. Despite his extremely busy practice, he always made time for his children. I remember having picnics at Lockport, a Quebec City road trip, going to San Diego to visit cousins, and a winter vacation to Mexico and Hawaii. He took us tobogganing, skating, fishing, to Disney on Ice, and even berry picking. A fond memory that I have of my dad is taking me to see the movie Oliver after he gave me my booster shot when I was 6. We went to the Beachcomber after and had the most amazing time together. Joining him when he made his house calls was a real adventure. He always managed to lure me in with his offering of ice cream or a treat. On a Sunday when my dad was napping, I would often lay with him on his bed and cuddle with him as we napped together. The sound of his beating heart and warmth lulled me to sleep. These are moments I will forever cherish. He conducted the best seders and the longest. He was a dedicated stamp collector and avid reader. He jogged, cross-country skied, fished, golfed, and who could anyone forget his amazing cleaning and cooking skills? He and my mom made a perfect match. He was also a great host, and he and my mom regularly entertained. There really wasn't anything my dad couldn't do or try. I have very fond memories of our summers at Winnipeg Beach, a place very close to my dad's heart. He liked it so much, he and Mom lived out there for years. They enjoyed time in Florida in the winters and spent many hours enjoying the sunroom in their current home when they were unable to travel anymore. Although they traveled extensively in earlier years, Dad unfortunately never made it to Israel or went on an Alaskan cruise. 2 things he really wanted to do. Dad always worried about my mom's well-being. And it's unfortunate my mom cannot be here today. He was always concerned about others despite his own failing health. He rarely complained. My kids loved their Zadie, even though they didn't get to see him as often as they would have liked or he would have liked. The time they spent together was cherished. They enjoyed going for summer walks, enjoying Assiniboine Park, And of course, always getting a treat. Dad loved his ice cream, maybe even more than the kids. No matter what he did with them, he always made them feel special and loved. They will always remember his infectious chuckle and his velvety hands. His original songs, snapping fingers, and dance moves were so entertaining for them and the whole family. Although my dad was a kibitzer, I know that if I really needed to have a serious talk, he would always be there for me with his sound advice. I enjoyed our medical chats and personal discussions, and he would always end our conversation with the phrase, in a very nonchalant way, "Carry on." I can hear him saying that now, as if to affirm that what I was doing was the right thing. Wherever his spirit may be, doing the right thing. I hope and pray that Dad will somehow carry on, wherever his spirit may be, or at least we will carry on for him. I will forever love and miss you, Dad. Okay.
Thank you to everyone who came out today to help us celebrate the wonderful life of our father, Monte. When a person has the good fortune to live over 95 years, there's a lot to unpack. Our father was a devoted husband, son, brother, uncle, physician, and pillar of our community. As a pediatrician, he dedicated his career to caring for the youngest among us, earning the love and respect of his many patients and their families. His generosity knew no bounds, always willing to lend a hand to those in need. He was admired by his colleagues for his contribution to the profession, his dedication to lecturing and teaching students who would potentially become the next generation of pediatricians, and his involvement with the St. Amant Center and the Cerebral Palsy Association of Manitoba. Dad had a very busy medical practice, checking in on hospital patients in the morning, then going to the office to see patients all day. After dinner, my dad would do house calls. He would bribe us, as my sister alluded to, with ice cream to come keep him company so he can catch up on what we were doing that day. Dad was one of the last docs to actually do house calls. Even though my dad's practice was limited to children up to the age of 16, many of his patients would return well into their 20s and 30s, asking the secretary if they could be snuck in. This is a true testament to the great rapport and connection that he had with them. Beyond his professional career, my father was one of the original members of the Adas Yeshurun Herzliya Synagogue. Since the late 50s and early 60s, he and my mom were active in the synagogue, holding different positions on the executive, donating time and money to making the shul flourish. Although not very religious man, my father was observant and committed to upholding the customs and traditions of Judaism. He looked forward to the high holidays and celebrating the Seder with family over Passover. Mom and Dad were involved in other community initiatives, such as helping to sponsor Russian immigrants in the 70s to escape communism and to get settled here in Canada. Dad was a lifelong learner and an avid reader of all types and styles of literature. He was often seen relaxing with a good book and a scotch. He would drive us to school on occasion, but instead of the radio playing, he would be listening to audio tapes of pediatric conditions and diseases. He was fascinated with stamps and was a member of the Canadian Philatelic Society. He spent countless hours cataloging stamps from different parts of the world, and on occasion, he even let me touch them. But only with tweezers, because God forbid I should bend or soil them. This was my dad's attempt to bond with me. And feeling rachmanis, or feeling sorry for me, he let me steam old stamps off of envelopes in an attempt to include me in the activity. Dad was a great cook, and he rivaled my mother as the culinary expert in the house. He was known to make a mean soup, barbecue steaks, roast chickens, and turkeys. He even koshered his own meat. Who did that? My dad. He loved gardening and kept the most fastidious lawn on our street. People in the area would comment on how immaculate the Kowall yard looked. They didn't even want to step on the lawn. When Dad wasn't cooking a roast or mowing the lawn, at least when they lived at Winnipeg Beach, he would be found at the end of the pier, fishing for hours, with a pediatric journal in hand. Uncle Monte, to his many nephews and nieces and great-nephews and nieces, was more than just a respected uncle. He was fun, playful, and a very witty and sadistic sense of humor. Each one of his nephews and nieces has a unique story to tell about my dad and their crazy experiences together. Whether that was taking them out for Chinese food and then pretending to run out on the bill, freaking out his nephews, all the while having paid the bill beforehand. Or taking them to the beach and teaching them how to swim and trying to drown them at the same time. He would be very unpredictable, but that was his weird sense of humor. He had a gift of making each one of them feel loved and special, and his playful antics will be remembered for years to come. My dad was a wonderful brother to his only sibling, Bernard, and later on sister-in-law, Louise. Though they were 7 years difference in age, they had a very caring and supportive relationship. I never saw or heard of my dad and my Uncle Bernard having cross words about anything. My dad was a devoted son, and he did what he could to help out his parents while growing up. In particular, he used to alternate with his brother taking my Zeta his lunch. They would ride their bicycle from Redwood and Maine area to Arlington and Notre Dame, where my Zeta had a general store. When my Baba became debilitated, my dad made sure she was well taken care of and got her into the Shaarey home, and even secured extra help when needed. He loved his mother and cared for her dearly. Dad had a wonderful relationship with his brothers and sisters-in-laws. They were actually more like brothers and sisters than in-laws. Myra and Hai, Misha and Lynn, Gordon and Mimi, Harvey and Sylvia, they all fostered wonderful, loving relationships and spent countless hours together at different family simchas. My father truly cherished these relationships. My dad loved being a Zeta and always wanted to be involved as much as possible in their lives as they grew up. Whether it was attending programs, recitals, school plays, graduations, or other milestone events, he wanted all his grandchildren to know they were loved and were made to feel special. Even though the grandchildren were not always present, some living in other areas of Canada or overseas, he always kept them in his heart and always wanted to stay close and involved in their pursuits. Dad loved all his children equally. Even though we could each argue who was his favorite child, my dad tried his best to give us each the attention we needed, some more, some less. He did his best to support us financially in our educational pursuits, whether it was nursing, chiropractic, speech pathology, or theater and acting. Dad instilled the benefits of a good education, and he made sure that we did our best in school and in our professional pursuits. My father could be short-tempered, and if you didn't do what you were supposed to or what he expected you to do, you could find yourself on the wrong end of a belt or a skipping rope, or find yourself in the room or not allowed to play with your friends. My father could be quite the disciplinarian. and that's why, at least I coined him, as the benevolent dictator, or Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I could only imagine, after spending a whole day in the office listening to screaming children, the last thing he wanted to hear when he got home was his own screaming children. It's a good thing that time heals old wounds. Dad shared the same love of his daughter-in-laws Dee Dee and son-in-laws Gary and Robbie. He always made them feel appreciated and accepted them into the family. He always enjoyed the time with them. My dad had a wonderful life with my mother for almost 68 years. Their anniversary would have been on the 29th of this month. The two of them had a unique relationship, although mostly based on love and respect. As with all marriages, my father's unique and quirky sense of humor would at times irritate my mother, and prompt responses like, "Monty, you're talking foolish," or "What are you saying?" or "I think your father's nuts." But she knew he was trying to get a rise out of her. They were seldom apart, and the only times they were ever away from each other was when we were younger and staying out at the cottage for the summer. My dad would make treks back and forth from the city to see us. They loved to take winter vacations in exotic places like Mexico, Hawaii, the Caribbean. They went on educational trips to Italy and Russia, but later they found Florida to be a great place to set up for the winters. They had a great group of friends from both Florida and other Winnipeggers. My dad loved to entertain and be with people. He had a tremendous sense of community. He would often be seen holding court with his friends, joking with his witty sense of humor, with a scotch in hand. In the later years, and most recently, my parents' health began to wane, and each one was faced with significant challenges. Most recently, my mother was placed into nursing care at Deer Lodge Center. This unfortunate situation contributed in part to my father's decline. He misses my mother. He missed my mother dearly and was truly heartbroken by her absence. He would ask the caregivers each day, "Where's his Cece?" Limited by his mobility, he was unable to see her there and would FaceTime with my mom so they could be together. Unfortunately, this did not seem to prevent his heart from breaking, which we all believe led to his ultimate passing. As we say goodbye to our father, Monty, we take comfort in the memories we share with him. We will remember his quick wit and playful grin and the countless laughs he brought us all. We will miss him dearly, but we'll continue to celebrate the legacy he left in all of us.
Thank you so much for such beautiful, beautiful tribute to Monty's memory. May his memory be a blessing. Let us all say, Amen. The El Maleh Rachamim prayer. El Maleh Rachamim Shochem Bameroimim Ametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina V'ma'alot Kedoshim Kedoshim Uteorim Kezoyer Arakim Amazirim Edni Shemat Edni Shemat Moishe ben Shimon Bluma שהלך לעולמו בעבור שלא מתפללים ועד הצקעת נשמתו בגן עדן בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו לכם בלרחמים אז תדעו בסדר כנב לעולמים וצרור בצרור החיים החיים את נשמתו אדוני ונחלתו וינוח ושלום על משכבו ונאמר אמן. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Monte Kowall, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us all say, Amen. The mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal ve'yitgadash shemei Rabah be'alma divirach hiruteh ve'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Israel ba'agala u'vizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehe shemer Rabah mevorach le'alam u'le'olmei olmaya yitvarach ve'yishtavach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh Veit hadar, veit ale, veit halal, shemei de kudesha brihu. Le'eila min kol birchata veshirata, tushvechata venehemata, damiram be'alma vimeru, amen. Yehe shlama rava min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu, ve'al kol Israel vimeru, amen. Ose shalom bimrumav, uyase shalom עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן. המקום ינחם אתכם בתוך שלב לציון בירושלים. May God bring comfort and bless you like God comfort all the mourners for Zion and Jerusalem. Let us all say Amen. So in a minute we are going to continue with the burial. We are going to put some earth on top of Monty's coffin, and according to the rabbis, this is an act of kindness that we can do to pay tribute to his memory. Before we do that, I have a couple of announcements. It's an awkward time of the Jewish calendar for having a funeral. So because it's the day before Pesach, Pesach starts tomorrow. So it's not going to be a meal of consolation. Everybody's invited to come to the one night of Shiva. It's going to be tonight at 7 p.m., from 7 to 9 p.m. at 868 Ash Street, right? Because once Pesach starts, Pesach cuts the Shiva short. So there will be only one evening as an opportunity to come and visit with the family, pay your respects. So remember, 7 to 9 p.m., but if you want to come for the prayers, for the service, that is going to be around 7 p.m., so towards the beginning of the Shiva visit. So I would like to invite now immediate family first to come pick up a shovel and to put some earth on top of Monty's coffin. And if that process of picking up a shovel is too complicated, there is a white bucket here with fine gravel. You can also use that as well if you believe that this is going to be a little easier for you. Once again, thank you everyone for coming out. Thank you to all of you at home for tuning in. Your presence is greatly appreciated. Thank you again, and in advance, Chag Pesach Sameach.
Is it? Oh, there's a line.
Yeah.
You can pass me by if you want.
No, I'll be good here on the cement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I will.
Yeah.